You know, one thing I always thought was really cool is that if you are a fan of the Green Bay Packers, the NFL franchise, you could buy a stake within the team and be a partial owner of an actual NBA franchise. So, you know, man, I decided one day that I want that to happen in the NBA. I want to own a stake in an NBA franchise. Now, I knew to do it, I would have to be financially secure, so I decided to put all my money into SHIB. It was going well for a bit, man. I was making tens of dollars a day. Everything was going really well. And it got to a point where I now own a stake in an NBA franchise. If by stake you mean pepperoni, and by franchise you mean a hot and ready Little Caesars pizza, I'm broke as hell, man. But with that being said, it makes me wonder, even from like once you buy an NBA team, just how much influence could your finances have on that squad? You know, like if Jeff Bezos just decided, hey, I want to go buy the Detroit Pistons and put all my money into that, could he actually like buy a championship? I know in baseball there's not like cap or anything like that, so you can essentially do that. Before today's video, man, we actually have a video by Jimmy High Roller titled, "Can You Buy an NBA Championship?" We're going to check this out, see what it's all about, and see if it's worth, you know, man, keep on investing within my dream. Crypto!
Here are your 2022 NBA champion, Golden State Warriors.
Struggling this season, though. Struggling this season for sure.
Question. Can you buy wins in the NBA? If a team spends enough money,
I'm gonna like
will it
this.
inevitably
I'm gonna
lead
like
them to
this.
a title? I asked these questions because a couple weeks ago, news broke that the Warriors had signed their up-and-coming star Jordan Poole to a 4-year extension worth $123 million. And then
You know, just to go off this real quick, I feel like the closest you can get to doing that is essentially like what the Warriors have, in which it's like you already have the foundation there, but then you also draft really nice and get guys like Jordan Poole before they get that big ass money, because that's usually what breaks up teams, I believe, is like when there's just too many guys that need to get paid and everything. But there's always like that small little window where contracts don't like overlap exactly, so
shortly after, it was announced that Andrew Wiggins also agreed to a 4-year extension with the Warriors for $109 million.
Draymond
Two
crying, man.
nine-figure deals dished out on the same day by the same team. But neither Poole or Wiggins are the highest paid players on the Warriors.
Curry.
That would be Stephen Curry,
Yep.
who's also the highest paid player in the entire NBA.
Is he?
And then Klay Thompson, and then Draymond Green,
I thought
and
Bradley
then
Beal was
Jordan
for some
Poole
reason.
and Andrew Wiggins. Just these 5 players combined will make a mind-boggling $174 million in the
man.
2023-2024
That's an
NBA
expensive
season.
big five.
For perspective, when the Warriors assembled arguably the greatest team ever in 2017,
Oh,
the
here we go.
entire team had a payroll of just $101 million.
And keep in mind, it's a team, you know, back in 2017 that had like Kevin Durant on it too, so.
The Warriors are
Wow.
handing out more massive contracts than any other team in NBA history in order to retain their spot as the best team in the league.
It's not working
and
this season so
far.
far.
It's looking like a great investment.
All right,
So
well.
I'll ask again.
Screw
Can
me.
you buy a championship in the NBA? Well, there's really only one way to find out. Today's video is brought to you by
SeatGeek.
SeatGeek, a new
Yo, can you get like other tickets? Cause I know my girlfriend, we going to Blink 182 concert. I'm so excited for her. But yeah, I don't know if we should have used, maybe we should have used Jimothy's code here, man. Code Jimmy, you know, man, you know what I'm saying? So go help the man get his bag and everything. Here we go.
Back in 2010, LeBron James joined the Miami Heat as unanimously the best player on the planet.
The decision.
And in his first season with the team,
Great times,
he
great
made
times.
$14.5 million from his NBA salary. At the time, this was a nice big contract for the league's premier superstar.
what is this doing?
But times have changed.
Highest paid player on the 2022-23 season. Yo, John Wall, Russell Westbrook, bro. Damn, man. Get money, get paid. Damn, man. I don't see a single Piston on there. Yeah, we're gonna have some money freed up, man. Yes, sir, baby. Remember, like 2017 when like Timothy Mozgov was
102.
got like a
There
damn
are
Supermax.
102 NBA players
Essentially.
who will make more money this season than a prime LeBron James made a decade ago. Part
so
of
like
this
compared
is
to
due
Michael
inflation,
Jordan.
but mainly this is due to the fact that the NBA simply generates far more revenue than it did back then. But throughout NBA history, teams
Yeah,
have been
and
willing
like
to pay
when you
an
talk about like inflation and stuff like that, you gotta keep in mind too, like look at like I don't know, I always go to like the Big Mac theory. You can like look back, you know, at like any point in time and see how much a Big Mac costs and just see like how, you know, how much it costs now and everything like that. So it's pretty much the same thing, you know, like Michael Jordan back in the 80s, you know, he was the Big Mac, man. It just costs more these days.
Insane amount of money to have a chance at a championship.
It's just hard to think about
In
that
Michael
way
Jordan's
sometimes.
last season with
You
the
just see
Bulls,
the dollar
MJ
signs.
was paid quite possibly the most amount of money relative to his peers in the history of sports.
It was not much.
In the 1997-1998 NBA season, Michael Jordan made $33.14 million from his NBA salary. By himself, MJ made more money than the
That's actually
combined
insane.
team salaries of 19 other NBA teams that season. His contract was so massive that the league implemented a maximum salary rule the following season, which prevented teams from paying the equivalent
I didn't
of
know
an
that.
entire roster's payroll to one single player. Even
So up until that point, you could just pay whatever you wanted? I did not know that. That's actually super
by
interesting.
today's
Wow.
standards, this is a giant one-year salary. But if we adjust for inflation and total revenue driven
we
by
go.
the league, Jordan's 1998 salary would be the equivalent of an NBA player making approximately $120 million this
damn.
season, which makes the contracts of even the highest paid players today
Wow.
look like an absolute bargain.
Yeah.
It's insane. I know, but it's true. The man was very
Great
valuable,
way to break it
and this
down.
massive contract would prove to be well worth the investment. The Bulls needed Michael, and they also knew that having him on their roster was the closest thing to a guaranteed championship. So they paid up and were rewarded for doing so. But in today's NBA, a league that's crowded with talent, 9-figure contracts being handed to players coming off the bench, is it possible to buy your way to a championship? If a team is willing to
I don't
pay
think
a
so.
hefty luxury tax and spend more than market value for the available talent, does that guarantee success? Well, first, let's look at the teams that actually won championships throughout the years and how much they spent on their roster.
Here we go.
Last season, the Warriors won the championship, and wouldn't you know it, they had the highest payroll in the entire NBA. In 2021, the Bucks won the championship, and they did not have the highest payroll.
And see, like, even like the Warriors case, I don't think they, like, yes, they had the #1 payroll, but they didn't buy a championship. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, those are all guys that they drafted there, you know? So it's like they built the team, then they paid the players. But, yeah, I think about it as terms of, like, the damn, like, New York Yankees, bro, always be buying players and stuff like that, man. I remember y'all stole Curtis Granderson from my Detroit Tigers, man. I was not happy about that.
Payroll in the entire NBA. In fact, among all teams that won a championship over the last 30 seasons, only 5 championship teams had the largest payroll in the NBA. When looking at the numbers, there's actually almost no correlation to how much a team is willing to spend and whether they win the championship
I like that.
or not.
I like that,
Sure,
though. It's how it
teams
should
with
be.
some of the cheapest rosters virtually never win, but teams that have some of the most expensive rosters also don't win the majority of the time either. And surprisingly, 8 of the last 30 championship teams had a total team salary that was cheaper than the average team salary in the league at the time. The craziest example of this was
Yeah, great example of just, like, drafted nicely, man. Look at them San Antonio Spurs. Like, that's just a team that just built a dynasty the right way, man. You also got my Detroit Pistons, you know, doing it the right way and everything.
back in
Like,
1995
you ain't
when the
gotta buy
Rockets
it.
won a championship despite having the 4th cheapest payroll in the entire league. Money can buy good players, but it can't prevent injuries, locker room issues, unforeseen circumstances, and it certainly cannot buy a championship.
Can't buy chemistry.
But what about wins? Does spending far more money than other teams equate to winning more games than other teams? Well, last season, the Lakers had a team payroll of $164 million, and they won just 33 games. That same season, the Grizzlies won 56 games and had a team payroll of just $117 million. The Lakers spent damn near $50 million more than the Grizzlies just to not even make the playoffs. But this is an extreme example
Wow,
of
this
team
correlates to, like,
payrolls
the
not
NFL.
quite converting to wins. So here's a graph of every NBA team last season with team payroll on the left and total wins on the right. And if you look closely, there's actually a subtle correlation between how much a team spends on their roster in a season and how many wins they pile up. These teams spent less money and won fewer games. These teams spent more money and won more
there it
games.
is.
But there's no exact science here. For example, the Thunder spent about 45 cents on their roster last season and still won more games than the Rockets, Pistons, and Magic. The Phoenix Suns spent a little bit more than the league average on their roster last season, and they won by far the most games in the regular season. But generally speaking, spending more money does in fact yield more wins for any given team.
Says it
but
does?
far more often, it will not yield a championship. That, however,
Yeah, I think that you can buy the regular season, but I don't know, like you can buy players that can like perform like in certain circumstances, but when it comes to like winning a championship, like I don't know, it takes a little bit something extra that I don't think money can buy.
However, has not stopped teams from trying. Back in 2005, New York Knicks owner James Dolan went all in
Starberry,
and
Jamal,
spent
what a
a
team.
criminal
What a team.
$124 million on the Knicks roster that season. The salary cap at the time was $46 million. So with the roster payroll that dwarfed the league's salary cap, Dolan paid the league a mind-numbing $62.3 million in luxury tax in hopes that his wealth would grant him basketball immortality. It did not. The Knicks finished the season with just 23 wins and the worst record in the Eastern Conference. Money cannot buy you an NBA championship. But the goal isn't just to spend as much money as possible. The goal is to sign the best, most cohesive players money can buy to your roster, which in its very nature leads to spending more money. For this exact reason, the rookie contract is by far the most valuable deal in the NBA. Last season, players like Darius Garland and Trae Young were all-star caliber talents for the small price.
If you can land you like a rookie that's just instant impact, and you combine that with like the right veteran players, like, such a good chance at just doing some things.
Equivalent to that of a bench warmer. Thanks to his rookie contract, Luka Doncic was named first-team All-NBA last season, while being the 126th highest-paid player in the NBA.
You know, it almost has something to do with like I've noticed that too with like players that are like in actual like contract years always end up becoming like really good, the high-value players for that one season because they're playing for that next contract. And I feel like it's the same thing with the rookies where you just can't take the foot off the pedal. You know, like once you get locked into that money, Duncan Robinson, you know, you can just kind of coast a little bit more and take a little bit of like a step back. It's not a good thing always. Well, at all, I guess.
Right behind players like Alpha teams in terms of win shares. It's not perfect, but it does the job. Now, in a perfect world, every player would be paid exactly what they were worth, which, hypothetically, is this line right here. But of course, this is rarely the case. Jonas Valanciunas and Daniel Theis are examples of two players who get paid exactly what they're worth statistically. Their teams are literally and statistically getting what they paid for. Now, most NBA players fall right here. Role players, rookies, young unproven talent, guys like that.
Yo, who's up
Over
here? Who's
are
up the
the
top
players
right?
who are grossly underpaid. Usually rookies stuck on their first contract waiting to cash in once it expires. Here's Trae Young, here's Luka Doncic, and here's Mikal Bridges. These are the contracts owners and GMs dream of. Overall, players below this line would be considered underpaid, and players above this line would be considered overpaid.
Who's all the way up here,
Despite
Russell?
being the
That's
fourth
gotta be
highest paid
Russell,
player
right?
in the NBA last season, Russell Westbrook didn't offer much from a winning perspective, which resulted in him landing here. According to the numbers, and injured players aside, the most overpaid players in the league last season were Russell Westbrook, Kemba Walker, and Blake Griffin. Their impact on winning is slightly above that of an average player, but they're all getting paid like they're superstars. But you would never say that Giannis Antetokounmpo is overpaid, and yet he's way up here. Same goes with Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, and LeBron James. In fact, most above average NBA players would be considered overpaid relative to the rest of the league, because you're either good enough for ownership to keep you around, which allows you to make demands regarding your contract, or you're just below
That's a
average,
super interesting
making
chart.
you completely replaceable, virtually making it impossible to negotiate a decent contract, and you'll just take whatever you can get. There's hardly any middle ground here, and the Warriors are a glaring example of this, since after re-signing Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, the Warriors' Big Five land here, and this right here perfectly summarizes the financial aspect of the NBA. Kevin Durant did not contribute 3 times as much to the Nets last season as, let's say, DeJounte Murray did to the Spurs last season, and yet KD made 3 times as much as Murray did. Because when a player reaches a certain level of excellence, there is no formula to how much they're worth. You don't bargain with these players, and you certainly do not let them walk and risk ruining your chances at a title. You simply pay them whatever they want, and you count your blessings. But according to the rules, the Warriors can only pay Steph so much. Thanks to Michael Jordan, his NBA salary has a very finite.
What do you guys think, like, what do you guys think the salaries would be looking like if the salary cap didn't actually exist? Like, I don't know, like, how much would you be willing, well, I guess it's not your money that you're paying out of your pocket, but, like, I don't know, like, how much do you think, like, the best player on your team is worth? Like, would you give like a $1 billion contract or something? I don't know.
Ceiling. But the rest of the money can go to every other player that helped them win a championship last season. Steph has reached a level in the NBA, and specifically within the Warriors franchise, where he can demand virtually any dollar amount, and it would be completely justifiable. Steph could ask the Warriors for $150 million a year, and if it wasn't for the maximum salary rule, Joe Lacob would be so eager to get him his money, he wouldn't be able to pull out his checkbook fast enough. Similar to what the Bulls did with Michael Jordan in his last few seasons with the team, the Warriors are going all in with Curry. They know that as long as he's in his prime, they have a damn good shot at winning another title.
Yo, I love you maybe want to see the NBA like this.
Of all time, and a supporting cast that complements his skill set better than anything they could have imagined. So if it means paying a young Jordan Poole one of the biggest contracts in the entire NBA, paying an aging Draymond Green more money than any other team would offer, and paying Andrew Wiggins exactly what he asked for, it's all worth it. Is any player overpaid if they play a crucial role in winning a championship?
You know, it's kind of like the thought process behind like the Supermax contract too. I don't know, like maybe there is like room to not exactly like hurt the teams that just, I don't know, man. Like I feel like the Warriors, like the salary cap rules hurts them because they did draft all these players. So why should they not get to keep all the players, you know, and like have to pay like some ridiculous like luxury tax or something? I don't know.
It's tough to call anyone overpaid if they were a vital component to winning that banner that hangs in your rafters. And they give your team a legitimate opportunity to hang another one. Because of the maximum salary rule, Steph will never get paid truly what he's worth. But that doesn't mean the Warriors can't spend the money in other places. Now you know you're good when you get paid, but you know you're great when you get other people paid.
That's
and because
true.
of Steph's impact, his whole squad
Steve
is
Nash
laughing to the
effect.
bank.
Just not Coach
Because
Steve
just
Nash,
like every
apparently.
team that came before them, the Warriors cannot buy a championship. But that won't stop them from trying.
All right, that is the end of the video. That was so damn interesting. Thank you all so much for watching. Peace out, my friends.